Who are the pastors who absolutely just love the cash? And of course, love donations from their followers. All in the name of God, of course. Let's get started with number 4, Lamar Whitehead. Lamar Whitehead is a Brooklyn-based pastor known for his flashy lifestyle, and he's someone we've covered before. And this is his latest update. Allegedly, Whitehead defrauded his parishioners out of hundreds of thousands of dollars. Federal agents arrested Lamar Whitehead, the Leaders of Tomorrow International Church founder, in December 2022. However, this wasn't his first interaction with the law. Whitehead's criminal history began in 2006 with an arrest over an identity theft scam that used the names of people living in Brooklyn and Long Island. At the time, he faced 10 counts of identity theft. He was released early for good behavior from Sing Sing Correctional Facility in 2013. A year later, Whitehead received a cease and desist letter from the Brooklyn District Attorney's Office over his false claims of promoting a collaborative justice initiative with the DA's office that year. In 2016, despite owing $251,000 for an outstanding court judgment over an unpaid personal loan in 2009, Whitehead drove around Brooklyn in a Bentley and Maserati. Whitehead also allegedly scammed $90,000 out of one of his parishioners. The woman was reluctant to hand over her life savings, but trusted him. At the time, she struggled to secure a mortgage with her low credit score, and Whitehead offered to help. As the savings were her only source of income, he promised to pay her $100 a month, but he supposedly only made one payment in January 2021. She wired Whitehead the money, but rather than spend it on her new home, he treated himself to expensive clothes, among other things. When she asked about her new home, Whitehead claimed he'd talked to her after his election campaign for Brooklyn Borough President. Later, Whitehead told her he had no obligation to pay her back and would invest the cash in his own company. She learned he'd used the money to buy a $4.4 million home and sought a $1 million judgment in the scam. Whitehead allegedly had other victims too, including a businessman he extorted out of $5,000 after promising they'd make millions of dollars if he could borrow $50,000. He touted his relationship with New York City Mayor Eric Adams, claiming he could get favors from the New York City government. Adams had supported Whitehead and his ministry since it opened in 2013 and spoke fondly of him at events. His ministry's website had a donate button, despite his claims that the organization didn't solicit funds. In an indictment against Whitehead, there were claims that he threatened at least one victim who only made a payment to the pastor under the instruction of the authorities investigating Whitehead at the time. At the time of his arrest, he told authorities he only had one phone, but had texted one of his victims to contact him on a different phone. As part of his indictment, he had to forfeit every belonging obtained through his offenses. For anything that couldn't be found or obtained, federal agents had permission to seize other items that equaled the value of those belongings. As of December 2022, Whitehead's case is ongoing. He's charged with extortion, wire fraud, and making material false statements. If convicted, he could face a maximum of 65 years in prison. Number 3, the Edwards family. The Edwards family ran a faith-based charity that pledged to teach the Christian faith and be devoted to service. Fall of 2020, they allegedly pulled off a multi-million-dollar fraud when they applied for the COVID relief program created for small businesses and nonprofit organizations. Parents Evan and Mary Jane Edwards and their adult children, Joy and Josh, filed paperwork claiming that the ministry, Aslan International Ministry, handled a monthly payroll of $2.7 million and had 486 employees. After receiving $8 million from the government, the family was on the radar of federal investigators who found inconsistencies in the claims they made in their application. One of the most alarming facts was that the accountant who signed off on the loan suffered from dementia and hadn't worked for the organization in 3 years. Federal investigators visited the ministry's Orlando office but found the doors were locked, and neighboring businesses claimed to have never seen anyone inside. The ministry's website appeared inactive, donation links not working, and blurbs that seemed to have been copied from other religious websites. By the fall of 2020, federal agents were planning on questioning the family when police officers pulled them over for speeding in their Mercedes SUV. All 4 suspects were in the car, and Evan Edwards explained they were on their way to a conference in Texas. Federal agents arrived and searched the vehicle, where it became clear this wasn't an ordinary road trip. Edwards sat with a laser printer on his lap, and in one of the rear passenger seats were 2 clear bags filled with shredded paperwork. Authorities found suitcases filled with financial records, 2 Faraday bags to block any sort of GPS tracking with tablets and laptops inside, a paper shredder, and backpacks filled with external hard drives and USB drives. A Florida federal judge ordered the forfeiture of the $8 million they received from the government, claiming the money was the proceeds from money laundering and bank fraud. Despite this, the family wasn't charged with any crimes. Federal agents gathered information about the family, visiting Aslan International Office's deserted headquarters and chasing down Walter Nita, the accountant who supposedly signed Aslan's loan application. Nita's son spoke on his behalf, confirming his father's dementia. The $2.7 million monthly payroll mentioned in the loan application was far from the actual monthly income, which was closer to $5,500. Federal authorities had been watching the Edwards family for some time when they knocked on the Edwards' front door in September 2020, but nobody answered. 9 days later, agents returned with a search warrant to find that the house was empty. The Evans family was pulled that same evening, and authorities took the family into custody. All 4 were charged with filing false immigration documents at the Canadian border when they had originally moved to the U.S. Their forms claimed they'd be working for Walter Nita despite his ailing health. However, those charges were dismissed when a U.S. Customs officer admitted to having misread the interview reports. Nita's son suggested the family could have forged his father's signature on the visa applications, but he could have also signed the documents and not remembered. Months after the traffic stop, Edwards and his son returned to their boarded-up family home without his wife or daughter, whose whereabouts unknown. In December 2022, officers arrested Edwards and his son at their Florida home. The arrest came 5 months after an NBC News report brought new attention to their case. Their charges included multiple counts of fraud, and their first court appearances did not go well. Evan Edwards refused to go due to struggles in his health that forced him to be in a wheelchair, and he didn't want to be in a court-holding cell in his chair. Josh Edwards wouldn't answer even the most basic questions asked by the judge in the hearing. The judge ordered the pair to stay in custody pending completing psychiatric and medical exams. There's much of this crazy story we couldn't get into here, so for a deeper dive into the insane details, click the link here. Number 2. Yvonne Hampton Barley. Florida church pastor Yvonne Hampton Barley allegedly used her relationship to exploit an elderly couple to clean out their bank account and steal their home. Yvonne Hampton Barley's 10-year friendship with an elderly, childless couple seemed innocent initially. She was the founder and pastor of True Spirit of Christ Our Redeemer Christian Ministries and spent time with members of her church, including the elderly couple, both of whom were suffering from Alzheimer's and dementia. However, family members of the couple were suspicious of Hampton Barley early on and did not approve of her time with them. Their concerns were warranted, as Hampton Barley's time with the couple was more sinister than anybody realized. Over several months, Hampton Barley altered their retirement funding, added her name to the victims' bank accounts, and attempted to cash out their life insurance policy. Hampton Barley would pretend to be the couple's caretaker or daughter, and even added her name to the male victim's bank account. She withdrew roughly $18,000 from their accounts while claiming she had power of attorney. While posing as the couple's friend, Hampton Barley transferred ownership of their home to herself and set herself up as their sole beneficiary so that she would inherit their assets when they died. When the couple's niece, Nadine, discovered Hampton Barley's name on their deed while reviewing their personal affairs, she contacted an attorney. The attorney found that Hampton Barley diverted funds from his client's accounts to her own and cashed out the surrender value of the couple's life insurance policy. While investigating True Spirit of Christ Our Redeemer Christian Ministries further, the church's most recent physical address appears to be a luxury 22-story condo building where one of the church's officers reside. No information about the church could be found outside of the listing in Sunbiz Florida's business registry, where it was listed as a nonprofit. The family's attorney couldn't even confirm if the couple had actually attended the church, if that's where they had met Hampton Barley, or if the church even existed at all. Within days of the arrest, not one member of the church had come forward to defend their pastor. In fact, the family's attorney found found unusual, since the pastors often have strong relationships with their parishioners. Family filed a lawsuit against Hampton Barley in the spring of 2020, but ended the litigation as family members didn't want to put the couple through more distress. However, they were able to restore the deed to the couple. Hampton Barley might have dodged the litigation, but Miami-Dade police arrested and criminally charged her with grand theft, organized scheme to defraud, and exploitation of the elderly. Hampton Barley is now awaiting a judge's decision, which could end up including restitution of the stolen money. Number 1. Shepherd Bushiri. Malawi-born Shepherd Bushiri is a Christian preacher many believe to be a prophet with healing powers. Bushiri amassed a substantial following and ran churches from Ghana to South Africa. His followers flocked to listen to his sermons, although some needed more from him than his teachings. Supposedly, Bushiri performed miracles that changed people's lives, with his followers believing he could heal them and improve their lives. Bushiri often spoke about the miracles he'd performed, claiming he'd cured people of HIV, changed the fortunes of those living in poverty, made blind people see, and once walked on air. So, like Chris Angel. Bushiri offered a range of products at the large church complex, the Enlightened Christian Gathering, where he preached. On Sundays, he attracted roughly 40,000 people, all of whom would listen to the prophet's teachings, and some would do some shopping before they left. Bushiri sold merchandise at the stalls around the complex. Some of his products included branded t-shirts, towels, caps, calendars, wristbands, and even miracle oil. Vendors advertised that Bushiri blessed all their merchandise, so everything had healing power. Pfizer must be a little nervous. Bushiri soon amassed impressive wealth, although nobody knew his specific net worth. His fortune allowed him to buy 4 private planes and several hotels. He was also rumored to have been interested in several mines. Allegations of unsafe practices by the preacher were brought to light when congregants had to perform questionable acts to demonstrate their faith, where they ate rats, snakes, and grass and drank petroleum. It sounds like Bushiri was starting a fraternity. Despite filling sports stadiums during his services, some people were skeptical of Bushiri. They believed he was extorting those living in poverty who were so desperate to improve their lives they were willing to buy his snake oil with the hopes it would help their situation. While impoverished people sought change by buying his products, Bushiri became one of the wealthiest religious leaders in Africa. South African authorities arrested Bushiri and his wife on fraud and money laundering charges, but the couple skipped bail and fled to Malawi. According to Bushiri, his life was under threat, and the South African authorities didn't offer him protection. He addressed his supporters on social media and told them his decision to skip bail was to save him and his wife lives. After they fled, South Africa quickly issued arrest warrants for skipping bail. The specific way that Bushiri and his wife left the country was unknown. However, one theory was that a syndicate specializing in taking stolen cars from South Africa to Malawi helped sneak them out. The situation threatened to cause diplomatic tension between Malawi and South Africa, especially when a rumor circulated that the couple fled South Africa with Malawi's president Lazarus Chakwera on his presidential jet, although Chakwera's office and South African authorities denied those claims. A Malawi court deemed Bushiri's arrest illegal because it did not pass through the Minister of Homeland Security. In November 2020, Malawian authorities arrested the pastor and his wife when Interpol issued an arrest warrant for the two. However, his troubles in South Africa were far from over, where the government charged him with stealing $6.6 million through money laundering, fraud, theft. They also broke the conditions of their bail by leaving the country. Bushiri spoke to reporters outside the Malawi court, claiming he wasn't celebrating his victory, but a victory of God instead. While talking about justice prevailing, he forgot that South Africa would likely send an extradition request for him and his wife. In response to violating his jail conditions, the South African court seized his residence, although he appeared unfazed by the situation, stating he didn't care about his assets. Fears of Bushiri's release hurting Malawi's relations with South Africa complicated the extradition process. As part of the South African development community, Malawi and South Africa had already promised the protocol on extradition that they would send back fugitives. However, as of early 2022, their extradition case is ongoing. Click to watch one of these next videos. Let us know in the comments below whether or not you think there's at least one prosperity pastor that's not a scammer.